here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
Holy serious.
Well, we're going, we don't need roads.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
I love you.
You know, here's Johnny.
All right, basement dwellers, welcome back. I guess welcome back, right? We decided that we wanted to bring back a little classic that we all love called the Florida Movie Club, but kind of take it to a more stripped down version of what we've dealt with before. So I would like to welcome you guys all to our For Real Conversations. Myself hosting here is Trish, even though I don't really want to, but I also have Dace joining me because apparently we are the only people who watch movies in this friend group.
Yeah, we needed something for our outlet because otherwise we're just texting and we can't keep up with the text. So
That is fair because we do bitch to each other about movies a lot more than I realize.
yeah, and at this point it's like, hey, have you seen this? And nobody else in BPP goes to fucking movies anymore.
No, they don't.
And they wait 3 to 4 months for it to hit streaming. So at that point, I'm already on to the next.
Right, and then they start bitching about it, and we're like, we told you so.
Yeah. So right now, my movie partner is an 8-year-old who doesn't understand a damn thing that's going on.
To be fair, your movie partners used to be 28-year-olds who didn't understand the thing that was going on.
Yeah, but, you know, you're not wrong. Both blondes.
So we decided that given the state of the world right now, we thought that we'd start the theme out with dystopians, considering we're about to end up in one.
Yeah, you're not wrong there.
So we took a look at some of the most recent dystopians and things we've gotten in the last like 10 or so years and decided that for this week's episode, we are going to take a look at The Giver that came out in 2014, The Hunger Games from 2012, Divergent also in 2014, and a more recent one, which was Uglies. Funny enough, all of these have books that they originated from. Most of them were also all very well received, and except for Uglies at this point, have sequels behind them with the books, but not with the movies just yet. Basically, they're all dealing with being set in a modern day, or not modern day. Well, yeah, modern day USA that basically fell into disrepair and war for some reason or another, and their solution was something else than what we're currently dealing with right now. So the first one we have is The Giver, which is a futuristic society where nobody feels, nobody has any sense of themselves. They're all the same. They're basically told that they don't know their own families. Like, it's a very almost like robotic feel of a society where they kind of just do what they're told and they're supposed to be happy about it. We have The Hunger Games, which is, if you don't know about The Hunger Games, then where have you been? But that is a war-torn America that has decided that children fighting each other is the solution to war.
I think that's a perfectly acceptable answer. Put them in cages surrounded by alligators. Let's fucking go!
We also have Divergent, which is a futuristic society set in Chicago where the world collapsed around them, and they decided that to save it, they should not have diversity and just set themselves into 5 different factions based off of their personality traits, which, as we know, segregation has always gone well in the past. And
the whole concept of like putting you with your same personality, God, I fucking hate me. Why would I want to be around a bunch of me's?
And then for the last one, and the most recent one that has come out, we have Uglies, which is also a futuristic society where, for some reason, America fell apart. And they decided the solution to that answer was to make everyone happy and pretty and mind-controlled.
Mark Zuckerberg, if he gets to rule the world. That's what happened. We're going to make it Instagram.
There's no way. That man is an alien. You can't convince me otherwise. He has no irises.
This man has developed 5,000 filters through his app, and he basically, this is what he would do. Like, pick your filter. You're perfect now.
So I think the crazy part about these is they are all supposed to be set in the United States, where we are basically at this point in time looking at what could be a societal collapse, like what happens in all of these movies.
Mhm.
Most of them, we don't really know why or what's going on, but we've seen how some of the societies collapse. I think the one that we've really only get a really good idea of the societal collapse from is the Hunger Games, where in the Hunger Games, basically they are fighting a war over food. That's why it's the Hunger Games. They Something happened and it sparked a war, and instead of working together, they decided to fight each other. And then once the war was over, the way to crush the rebellion was sending children to their death.
And
So
that to relate it to real life, that's what RFK is doing right now. So, he's got a war against processed food, which all of us have been brought up on. So as soon as you put natural food in our bodies, we're going to shit our brains out. And he's just leaving the kids to fight measles. So,
I mean, given the current state of the world, like, do you genuinely do you think if like we're gonna find like similar, like, are we gonna end up in having to be in a dystopian society the way that these are though?
so out of the three, I think
For
the four, three of this is where my brain was going. Three of them
uh
actually could happen. The Giver
yeah,
one doesn't make sense to me because that one seemed to be based on logic, and if you live in this world, we're not using much of that these days.
I think
Um,
the only problem you have with the giver option too is with the memory passings, like how that was a thing,
mhm.
and then like taking away everybody's memories. There seemed to be just a little bit too far fetched inside that one.
Yeah, they were just using a little bit too much fluoride, and RFK took care of that. So therefore, you can't block the memories. The Hunger Games, though, I think we're kind of seeing that play out right now in Israel and Gaza. Like,
Absolutely. And not
um,
even just there. I mean, the homelessness and the issues within the country just in general, like, people getting mad because their taxes pay for lunches in schools. Like things like that. Like
yeah,
we are the Hunger Games are is probably that's probably the closest to what we're living in right now at this point.
yeah. I don't think from a standpoint of America, Hunger Games is in the distant future or like the near future. I mean, after dismantling USAID, whether you love it, hate it, or agree with it, uh, you sent some of those places we would give support to into these kind of issues. And now, I mean, there's videos right now of people in Gaza running for airdrops. Now,
Right.
it's I think it's probably the grounded one in it. I don't think it's on a large enough scale where you'll get the Hunger Games, but
But to argue that point, think about how they blew up entire districts in the Hunger Games too. So running from air raids isn't unknown in that either.
yeah, or the fact that we had what 1.5 million in a warehouse or whatever that number was that we just decided to throw away rather than give away
Right.
because of your stupid Doge effects. So there is a foundation that could happen. Do I think it likely will happen? No. You always hope that at one point humans aren't fucking retarded and will handle themselves. But I mean, there's small instances of it now happening. The USAID dismantling what's going on in Gaza, and I'm sure there's probably areas in Ukraine that are dealing with this too. So it's not far fetched to
Right.
see
Like, do we
starvation turning people into you know war machines.
it's just funny because like you see these movies and you see how like dilapidated and things look when you're not within the society that has been created to
Hmm.
be the solution for the problems. When if you think about it, like we're not far off in some places of the world, and even our country where you watch these movies and you think like, oh God, how could this happen? But it, it's
It
kind of happening.
it starts with the first domino. Again,
Right.
like I said, we are as Americans aren't experiencing it as hard as some of these other areas, but there's a chance that it does happen. Keep up with
Now,
certain policies and pushing certain things. This is what kind of the first domino in the whole reaction.
now we're past the point where society's falling. Taking a look at all of the ones that we saw within those movies, what do we think? Like, we're like, okay, taking a look at the ones we saw from those movies, like, which systems do you genuinely think would be the one that could could have been the solution or worked the way that, like, could have been worked if, like, small things have changed. Like, how do we feel about, like, the actual, like, solutions, whether it be, the Hunger Games or changing your appearances so, like, there's no issues or, like, no differences.
Realistically, probably Hunger Games or Divergent would probably be the two that are, at least at this moment in time. You can make an argument that the Uglies is happening based on all the amounts of plastic surgery and everything. Everybody wanted to be an OnlyFans model or an Instagram model. Like, you're willingly doing that. The next step is just get. There's conspiracy theorists out there that'll say you already did it with COVID, but it's just. I think honestly the food and war machine version of the future is more likely than these complying to peace. There's too many fighters. There's too many assholes out there.
Right. Because if you really think about it, and with what we've chosen, we've got two movies that go about, a battling a segregation of society, and, like, you do your part and stick with that.
Mhm.
Whereas the other two are more of just we're going to make everyone same across the board to eliminate issues. So, like, when you think about it, while both of them have their, at the end of the day, all of them have genuinely the right idea. It's just the execution of how they're done. It's just, and certainly, within The Giver, you see them, they lose all sense of emotion. They don't, yeah, they don't know, they don't know pain or, like, sadness, but they also don't know happiness or love.
They
So,
don't know
like,
they're
at that,
euthanizing babies.
right, they don't know that, when you're released, you're dying,
Yeah.
but they think it's just okay. So basically, is that a life worth living at this point? Like, is that really a society worth saving? Because you don't get to live your life. You're just being told what to do, which is the same thing with an Uglies. They're
Mhm.
given this wonderful life-changing operation to make to even the playing field, and, you're just living happy. And I believe in the book they called it bubbly. Like, you're just supposed to be living your life and being happy because there's no issues because everyone's the same. But at what point do you actually feel, like, genuine joy and happiness, or are you just thinking that it's that?
And I think aspects of The Giver and Uglies is there's nuggets of truth in it. There's so many
Oh
people who are
yeah.
willing to go with the unknown over the known because they think it's better.
Hmm.
You can look into it. 2008, you went with Obama because it was unknown. It's new. It's fresh. That hope was the message. 2016, I'm tired of this bullshit of, like, give handouts, give out stuff like that. Here's a guy that's not a politician. Let's go with that. Okay, I got a little bit of that. Let's go back to something we kind of know, but we don't fully know because he's really old and is he really there? And he's got cool aviators. Let's go with that guy. And then it got to the point again of, like, okay, well, what's Trump 2.0 with the chains off going to be like? And that's why America went that way. So the Uglies and the Giver, I think, go into that experience of, like, all right, I'm just going to let myself go and believe that this person or this cabal or collective or cult will lead me in the right direction. And that nugget's there. I think the more realistic one is the Hunger Games Divergent, where war and hunger and class division is more likely to happen because it's already happening.
Right.
So
I think with The Giver and Uglies, you fall into a society where you don't question it. You're beat into submission.
mhm.
This is, I've been told this is what's for the best, so I'm going to believe that. Whereas with Divergent and the Hunger Games, this isn't necessarily for the best. It's just you don't know how to fix it at that point, because it's almost a class issue. It's like it's a
Mhm.
class issue at that point. Like, you're physically beat into submission. Like, you don't have a choice.
It
This isn't the best option, but there's nothing else that you can do because you have no help at that point.
it's like if the Giver and the Uglies got out of hand,
Yes.
then you get the Hunger Games
Right.
and Divergent. And
I
I
mean,
think we're at the baby stages in society right now where we're looking at, like, Uh, basically, the telltale sign is you're just defending without actually caring, and that's kind of what happens in the Giver and the Uglies. Is like, no, I want that life. I want that perfect. I'm happy. I'm
right.
content. It doesn't affect me, so why the hell do I care? And I think
Right.
that's
And The
kind of where we
Giver,
are, society.
in the Giver and Uglies, like they don't know any better because that's what they've always been told to do.
Hmm.
Whereas within the Hunger Games and Divergent, part of them knows better, but they just don't have a way to change that.
Hmm. And I might be wrong on this, but I feel like the Hunger Games and Divergent is set further ahead from we'll say the catastrophic event that put them there than the Giver and the Uglies.
I
Maybe
don't
not the
know.
Uglies, but
I think Uglies is probably the closest to their catastrophic event,
mhm.
considering what you find out with, when they head into like the smoke and everything like that.
Yeah,
The
where
Hunger Games, I mean, we have a general timeline. The Hunger Games is sitting at about almost 100 years after, because I don't think the very first Hunger Games happened immediately after the war. If I'm remembering it correctly, the very first Hunger Games was a result of the war ending, but then there being another rebellion.
and I think at least with this dystopian theme that they've been doing, the further into it and the longer the deterioration away from, so basically the generational gap, and 100 years puts you probably about 2 generations removed
Yeah,
from
well,
the
yeah,
the
with
initial
them,
event.
yeah.
When you get that youth of Jennifer Lawrence making her debut and people caring about her before she was a ditzy blonde, um, it's it gives, like, those kids don't know any better. They grew up in it, whereas like
Right.
The Giver had Jeff Bridges who did know about it, which I still question if Meryl Streep knew about it.
I think if I remember correctly, now like for me, these movies hit differently for me than they do for you, because
Hmm.
I genuinely read all of them.
Hmm.
So actually, well, I didn't read Divergent because I found out how the series ended after the fact and it pissed me off. So we're not even going to get into that. I was
Hmm.
going to read it one day, but then someone spoiled how it ended, so I never did. But like I've read the Hunger Games. I mean, shit, I remember reading the very first Hunger Games and reading it through its publications. Like I read it as soon as it came out.
Hmm.
I think by the time I got to Uglies, most of them were out too. And then The Giver, I know The Giver has sequels, but I never read them. But The Giver is more of like The Giver is a literature classic, in my opinion. I think that's been out for a really long time. When you're within these books, like it's so different because like knowing what happens in the books versus seeing what's in the movies, it's also crazy to see what they change too.
Hmm.
Um, because like when the Hunger Games, like I was stating, like especially when you get to the third one, like Katniss is borderline suicidal in that, which is understandable considering all of the trauma that she's been through. And when you read the other Hunger Games books too, even the prequels and things like that, and finding out more about, what happened, how we got there, the simultaneous like how stupid the Capitol actually is versus like what they actually portray is crazy too, because
Hmm.
like the actual power that the Capitol has against all the districts is nuts. And like at the same time, it's also insane how much the other districts just blindly follow it because that's what they're told is best. So it's more of a
MAGA.
fall in line versus free thinkers type of vibe.
Hmm. And
I
that's
mean,
why I think
also,
that one relates closest to society it does today.
yeah. I mean, do we also think that this was the best way to handle the issues that they had too? Because like really the only one that gave us a good idea of their issues was Uglies and the Hunger Games. And Uglies explained that like they basically dried up all their natural resources
Hmm.
and they were sucking the earth dry. And in the Hunger Games, it's right there in the name. It was a war because they were running out of food. So like, do we really think that making everybody compliant and complicit is going to be the best option to survive like off the natural resources that we have? But when
Hmm.
you see that movie too, at the same time, they're saying that they run out of natural resources, but in the society that they're living in, they're getting all these scientific advances and they're throwing parties and drinking themselves into oblivion. So like, does that really seem like they're
Oh,
trying to save the natural resources that they said that
it's 100% the class warfare, and that's how you can
yeah,
relate to society, where we have this current administration again. Whether you agree with them or you don't, I'm not trying to turn this into a complete political thing, but you went from a green energy administration that tried to push solar, wind, hydroponic, all that type of
right,
stuff, to now back to fossil fuels. And fossil fuels is a limited resource. Whether you're for it or against it, it's finite. Once we're out of it, we're out of it. In theory, technically the same thing with solar, but you got 4.6 billion years to worry about that.
Right.
It's just that whole concept. The money is what talks, and right now we're burning through resources in society off the fossil fuel and all that stuff. Yeah, to power AI, to power this currency or this digital currency with these data farms. That's going to come to a head.
Yeah.
And then the people who have solar panels on their house, whereas everybody else that doesn't still has their lights on, it's going to turn into a fucking war because you're going to want some of that energy. And they were
Right.
smart enough to invest in solar panels or whatever the case may be.
Right.
And Hunger Games and Divergence, I really think, pushes into the class warfare where Uglies and the Giver said, if we make everything the same gray blob, they shouldn't fight anymore.
Fairly Odd Parents.
Fairly Odd Parents. That's exactly what it. The Giver is 100% that, to the point where he was waking up per se. Color, like, I thought that movie was shot beautifully, and like when it comes to
that's exactly what I was about to say. I think the other thing that needs to be touched on with The Giver is the absolute cinematography that was done went along, like, all around that movie was so well done for what they were trying to portray, because like it was shot well, not just with like the black and white and like the colors, but like the way that they even had the camera angles at certain points too were just absolutely incredible.
I also like to think that that's what's going to happen. That happened to Katie Holmes as she got pulled away from Scientology. Like, that was the movie after she got out of Scientology. The world started opening back up, and all of a sudden, black and white went to color.
Yeah, I think that The Giver was so well done because, like, when you, again, it goes back to, reading it. The whole point of The Giver is like when you're reading it, like, you're just kind of experiencing it the same way that Jonas is, where you're getting all these memories, you're hearing about the good, the bad, the ugly, the colors, the feelings, like all of it. So seeing the way that they clipped it all together, like, that was just all around, that was so well done. And I mean, you also get a lot of that from in my opinion, I also think The Hunger Games was such an amazingly well shot movie too.
Mm-hmm. It's a turd, Divergent, with Timu Dakota Johnson. I didn't like Divergent. I didn't like the series. I think I watched the entire franchise of both of these. Hunger Games killed off Philip Seymour Hoffman in real life. And then Divergent was just a train wreck. Like, there's no highlights in that movie for me because I already have a disdain. There's two actresses that I really can't stand. It's Dakota Johnson, because she calls herself an actress and shouldn't be able to act. And then there's Lena Dunham. And unfortunately for the lead actress in Divergent, she looks a lot like Dakota Johnson, and I mixed them up, so she gets the hate.
Well, I mean, speaking on the people inside the movie, like, at that point, how do you think they handled everything? Like, do you think that the people within these societies, could have done better? Do you think they should have just shut up and moved along and just accepted what they were doing? Or do you think that within what they were giving, like, could they have handled it better? Could they have gotten through it better? Could they have handled the rebellion better?
I'm gonna go with no. At least every single one of the person that got pushed into the rebellion was always reluctant. Like, that's the common theme between all four of them.
Is the reluctant hero, yeah.
All four of them were woken up throughout the movie and through the whole process. So it's very hard to handle things when it comes at you fast and furious and you have no information, especially in like the situation of the Giver and the Uglies. They didn't know any better. At least with Hunger Games and Divergent, they're aware that there's a bad side to this. The other two were just completely sold on the idea that this is a utopia.
Well, do you just necessarily think that they were aware, or it's just like, because with the Hunger Games, when you think about it, Katniss was also, Katniss and Triss, they probably both grew up where these societies and these solutions were already well established. So, like, technically they don't know better. It's just they're aware of it. Right. They see that there is better out there, and they see that what they're stuck with.
They know that there's a worse. They know that there's a better. Whereas the Giver with Jonas and then DuckTales in Uglies, they're just oblivious to the bad side of it. They see the end goal. They see that the selection process in the Giver, and then Instagram filter
They had
in
drank
the
the
Uglies.
Kool-Aid and liked the way it tasted before they realized
Mhm.
it wasn't good.
Yeah, and twofold. They didn't know anything but Kool-Aid. It
Right.
took an outside force to push him. Jeff Bridges, who always seems like to have a mouthful of marbles, it gave Jonas the push, and then I forget the chick's name. They pretty much
Fiona.
gave Is that the? Did not keep names in the Uglies.
Oh, you mean the other receiver?
The girl that based not the I'm terrible with names when it comes to the Uglies.
So are you talking about the receiver before Jonas or his friend?
No. I'm talking about the Uglies movie.
Tally.
That's DuckTales, right?
Yes,
The
that's
one that I
Joey King.
affection.
Her character's name is Tally.
Okay, so Tally got pulled out by that other chick who
Yeah, she got
introduced her
pulled
to
out by
the
Shay. Yes,
yeah.
Shay. Yeah.
And same with
Now,
Jeff Bridges pulling out Jonas's character in The Giver,
right.
whereas Katniss and Tess both saw it. They just keep your head down and keep moving.
To a certain extent, yes and no, because when you find with Trish wasn't ready to fight the system. She had no interest in, like, she didn't really care.
Mm-hmm.
It's just she was,
but she was aware of the system.
But she didn't think it was bad until she realized that she was a threat to the system.
Okay.
If that
all right, well
sense.
then she falls more into the Jonas category.
Right.
The Katniss one, she saw it all unfold. Like there's a friggin' battle royale every year.
Right.
Someone's gonna go, there's gotta be a better way. Like, can't we just play Connect 4?
Right.
Instead of murder?
Now at that point, though, do we think that it took them, like, when they finally fought back, like, was it the right time? Should they have waited? Should it have happened sooner? Because, like, when you think about it, I feel like with Uglies, I feel like that was a little bit messy and they didn't have it well thought out. And with The Giver, like, I think that one was more of like an emotional fight, because you see him try to, you saw him fail with what you find out was his daughter. So the other thing that's crazy to me is within that society, you're aware of the fact that biologically, technically, these families aren't related. So was that his daughter? Was that the child assigned to him? Like, all within that. Other thing.
That's what made me question if Meryl Streep knew what the fuck she was knew everything, because she seemed to acknowledge that was in fact his biological daughter. Like,
well, I don't know if it was biological or if it was just a child assigned to him, because they say it's his daughter, which was a big thing. By the way, I don't know if you noticed it or not, and I just had to point this out. Did you realize who played the daughter?
Yeah, I did not care for that. So when I realized who the daughter was, I was like, I don't care if she's dead.
So funny enough, that was probably one of the only times you really seen Taylor Swift acting. It took me a minute when I saw it the first time to realize that was her.
I did Google it because her face wasn't as puffy.
Right.
Like she just sucked on a lemon.
Yeah, it was very odd, and I didn't know that was a thing. And when I first saw the movie, like, it wasn't really advertised or anything like that she was in it. But with things like that, it's like, should they have thought back sooner? Like, should they have let it go on as long as they did, or should they have waited and plotted it out better and tried to figure it out better?
So, The Giver, no, I think those events were set off by happenstance. Like, obviously, the moment he unlocked what the hell was happening to babies and making that bond with the baby and seeing what was going to happen to that baby, that shit was going off the rails no matter what.
I think that was always Jeff Bridges' initial goal, was to make the next giver or the next receiver aware of what's going on and to try to fix it. Because you could tell, like, once Jonas said was like, I'm leaving, Jeff Bridges was like, all right, Gusty, I got you.
Yeah. Well,
so, like,
and to the Jeff Bridges
fight back.
But to the Jeff Bridges character, I don't think he was aware of Gabe. So in Jeff Bridges' timeline, he probably had it plotted to go a little bit longer, but this wild card of Gabe set it off quicker. I
don't know if he necessarily thought that Jonas was going to be the one to dismantle things. I think that was just like he was trying to get someone else within the mindset to realize that everything wasn't okay. And maybe he was, but, like, I think you're right. Like with The Giver, that happened, like, that was a series of events that that was out of everybody's control because it was either act now or not at all.
I was gonna say
And
multiple
right,
turn to this page options happened as you were going through the book
yeah,
of like the Goosebumps style. But I don't think Jeff Bridges had committed to Jonas until Jonas came back after the
right,
mishap. If
right.
Jonas didn't come back, I think Jeff would have just tried with another one.
Well, right, because that's what I. But I think at the end of the day, I think Jeff. It was like he liked that Jonas finally saw it, but I don't
Mhm.
think it was. I don't think it was fully Jeff's goal to, uproot society. I think he just didn't want to be alone too.
Uh, I think ultimately he wanted him to, because I mean
But
his passionate speech about love to Meryl Streep at the end,
right,
because he had to feel for so long, made him confident that humans could bounce back properly. I mean, history's circular. I mean, we're going through 1945 Germany again
absolutely.
right now, so it's he knew what he was doing. I don't think his timeline was going to be as expedited as it played out in the
No,
movie.
and that's what I mean. Like I think that was what he always wanted, but he didn't know if it was possible
Hmm.
within the lifetime of him before he got released elsewhere.
And to be honest, I don't think it would have happened if the Gabe element was there. I
I
think
think that's the
Jonas would
point.
have just kind of
Right,
turned into what Jeff Bridges' character was, and then
right.
would have just kept the cycle going. Introducing that baby and introducing that bonding,
See, I think
that's
it's 50
the
50.
motivator.
I don't think it motivated it until Jonas realized that they had that same mark, which I
Hmm.
wish that mark could have been explained more. Because if that's the case, like, are they genetically related? Like, what did that mark mean? Like, how did that come about? So,
Oh,
like,
that's the one thing I didn't care for the Giver. There was more questions than answers by the end of it.
right. Well, and that's the thing because technically, like I said, The Giver had, I think there was a total of 4 books in the Giver series. The Giver right now is the only one that we know for sure did never get to see, never got a sequel out of it.
Which
I
is
don't know if
bullshit.
they're gonna. What I agree, I totally agree. I don't think the movie was very well marketed or well received when it came out, which is unfortunate because it was a great adaptation in my opinion.
I'm
And
annoyed
then
that I
like
didn't know about it. You have a cast of Meryl Streep, Jeff
I
Bridges,
know
Katie Holmes, one of the
Alexander
Skarsgårds,
Skarsgård, yep. It was
apparently
a great
Taylor
movie.
Swift. Like, how the fuck didn't the Swifties get on this bullshit? At least elevate it to a sequel because your girl's in it.
Well,
Like,
because like I said, I just don't think it was a very well marketed movie. I didn't even know Taylor Swift was in it till I saw it, which is crazy because normally you know about this stuff. But again,
mhm.
this came out in 2014, so
uh,
a lot of those people, besides Meryl Streep and Jeff Bridges, they're not as big deals as there was before. But I
and they
think
got
with The
trapped in the middle
Giver,
of the Marvel boom.
right. And then on top of that, like I said, with The Giver, that one's definitely not getting a sequel out of it. But with The Uglies, you could the possibility of getting another one out of this is still there because that only came out last year. So I
And
don't know if we're gonna get the sequel, which I believe the next one is called Pretties. So
well,
because I think
Uglies
it's
was made by Netflix, right, or produced by
yes,
Netflix.
Uglies is
So
Netflix.
you probably
So
have
there's
better
a
odds there.
right. We still might get the sequel to Uglies, whereas with The Giver, that's what you're stuck with. So you're right. That movie left way more questions than
The
answers.
the other problem with the Givers, and I noticed this as I watched it, it was produced by the Weinstein Company, so they had
Hmm.
that playing against them just as the peak of
Yeah.
that was going on. So they may have a sequel in mind, but that motherfucker, it took Kevin Smith 2 decades to pry the rights of Dogma away from him. So t- if this series had traction, it could have been a 10 out of 10,
Right.
$1 billion project. He ain't the pettiness of him dying in jail is not going to release the rights to make it because the Weinstein Company's not a thing anymore. But he still owns the rights to these
Yeah.
movies, and that's probably why we're not getting a sequel. You'll probably get a reboot
Possibly.
before you get a sequel.
Like I said, I don't think it was very it's not that it wasn't well received. I just don't think it was received. Like I just don't think it was seen.
I'm gonna blame the Weinstein. I'm not blaming the Me Too movement, but the Weinstein takedown happened around the same time, and just knowing the saga Kevin Smith went through to get Dogma back, I'm gonna assume the rights of this book or this franchise is tied up like that because he buys the rights and he's
Right.
holding them out and trying to get the top dollar from them back to their
Okay.
original creators.
Right. Well, speaking of fighting back, now that we know how most of these end, right? Like
Hmm.
within so like do we think like now that they've fought back, now that they've done what they're doing, now that they've, cast the dominoes and knocked everything down, do we think any of these societies have a chance of moving on and living within the solution, or what came from them fighting back? Because within the hunger, you've got the Hunger Games, where the Hunger Games are gone, the capital's falling apart, and they're one bad twig snap away from another rebellion by
Mhm.
the end of the last one. The Giver are the, as everyone in that society who's had the wool pulled over their eyes for so long, gonna be able to handle what went down? Because that's why Jeff Bridges stayed behind, to make sure that everybody could handle it. But like, do we think that they're gonna be able to?
I'm just gonna something I'm gonna try to do through our podcast going forward is to just tie everything back to Star Wars. No, I don't think anything they did was successful, and a new empire will rise. The Giver, I had way too many questions on, and I feel like we're spending a lot of time on that because I did happen to like that the most. Your
Yeah,
other question that you had asked was, did they handle the rebellion properly? I don't think, to your point, the Uglies handled it right. Divergent and Hunger Games, I think, handled it right. I think you just got the perspective of people drawn into it in the middle of it.
right.
And kind of with the Uglies too. She got drawn. So the fucking problem I have with the Uglies is because I feel like this happens in a lot of movies, is people have their eyes open to the cause, but before they can actually prove themselves, they fuck over the cause. Like
Right.
that is a constant in like every fucking movie where we shouldn't trust this person, and you're like, yeah, you shouldn't. They're wearing a necklace that's giving away your location right now. Um,
Well,
but
and I think with Uglies too, because we Uglies is really for us the only one that's not fully fleshed out and finished yet. Uglies
mhm,
was left very wide open. I know how it ends. So for me, I know, within the society, it basically gets back to the point of I think it, they get rid of the surgeries, because
mhm,
in the second one you come to find out those lesions that they were talking about on their brains, yeah, that's controlling them,
yeah.
as they were alluding to. So you come to find out, okay, they're being controlled. So then the next part about it is them trying to get the solution out to everybody and fighting back. And
So
I
to
think
answer
that's
your question about do you think it goes back? I think Uglies and Giver does not go back because at least those two, there's a tangible thing they break,
right.
and that
Yeah.
everybody's like, oh, I wouldn't fucking go back to that again.
Well, I
At
mean,
least
Hunger
not within
Games,
several generations.
they almost
Hunger
went back to it in
Games,
Hunger Games. They
but
Snow one, not Snow. Goddamn, what was that bitch's name? Oh, Coin. Coin tried to, that was I think that was one of the biggest,
but
to me, that was a plot twist.
the
Seeing Coin be worse than Snow, which was crazy to me.
what I mean by tangible is there's two serums in the
Yes.
Giver and the Uglies,
Yeah.
whereas Divergent and Hunger Games are
Human
concepts
nature.
and
Right.
ideas. And
Right.
again, we made the joke earlier. History's circular. We're dealing with 1945's fascism again in 2025. So there's a good chance that the Hunger Games and Divergent could repeat itself, but with a slight variation, because they're going to try to restore order, and usually the loudest, angriest, usually minority voice
Right.
overpowers because they're good salesmen. I think those two have higher odds of returning back to the societies they broke free of, whereas the other two, it's like, yeah, I'm not injecting myself with shit going forward.
Exactly, right. Because in Uglies and the Giver, it's more of just it's genuinely it's a medical, it's like a science, right?
Hmm.
So it's also, you're gonna run into people not faking it or not caring or running away. Whereas, like I said, within the Hunger Games, it is just an ideology.
Yeah.
You with Coin too, Coin. The plot twist of Coin almost being worse than Snow was crazy, because
Hmm.
at the end of the day, Snow, this, as weird as this sounds, Snow genuinely thought he was doing what was best for everybody.
Yeah, which is it's
Weirdly.
often that's the most dangerous,
Now,
is that
and oh, absolutely,
somebody
because that
with
man is a
conviction.
psychopath.
Oh yeah,
Right.
but somebody with conviction and like fully believing what they're doing is right. Like that's the only thing giving me solace right now in our real life scenario, is that this motherfucker doesn't believe in a damn thing he says.
Right.
He just cares about money, and that'll
Right.
eventually solve itself in 3 years when he's gone.
And like with President Snow, he genuinely thought that like him being in control and him having the power and doing this was the best idea because
Hmm.
him being in control is what's best for everybody. Now when you see like Coin merciless like the line where he was talking about like I don't kill children more than needed or like unnecessarily murder children
Hmm.
because like Coin blew up all those kids. When you have a society that's so fragile like it is in the Hunger Games throughout the whole thing, the Hunger Games is never a stable environment, and it was always a powder keg of fucking
Yeah.
chaos. So like when you have something that fragile, you have to make sure that like if you don't get it set in stone and you don't have it like almost totalitarian to a certain extent once it falls, you have to like set it up and get there quickly because if not, it's just going to fall into utter chaos again.
Yeah, there's always a power that can slip in, and again, I'm going to do this everything we can, except when we get to the theme when we talk about Star Wars. Emperor Palpatine caused a war, solved the war, and then it's like you need me.
Right.
Loki even says it in the Avengers. You're meant to rule. Does this not feel better?
You are meant to be ruled, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Free will is the problem.
yeah, which is the common theme through all these. Like the moment
Right.
any of these fuckers get a little bit of free will,
Right.
we're gonna shut that shit down. So,
Yeah.
and we're seeing that now. But again, I have confidence in this society that I mean, we're seeing the wheels fall off now. But money is a bigger passion for what's happening right now, and people always usually can fight that kind of corruption.
I
The
mean,
other corruption where it's like an ideology where you're drinking Kool-Aid and getting a fucking town full of people to drink the Kool-Aid with you, that's rough. But
so I
people are
mean
turning on them now.
when it comes down to it, do you think if we get stuck in any of these societies, are any of us gonna fuck? Like, would you survive? Would I survive? Like, what do you think you can handle?
Well, shit. My heroes are Thanos, Negan, and like the lot of them. So I think I will. Um, Actually, I'm lying. I'll probably be one of the first ones shot because I've already had conversations where things are happening now in real life, and I'm like, I'm not gonna stand quiet and let this fucking shit happen in front of me. Like I've got a weird scenario in my head right now. I'll tell you offline that I don't want to put out there. But if it happens, I already told Jess like, hey, get the bail money ready because like I'm not gonna fucking sit silent on this.
That's the thing. Like, I want to say that I'd survive, but I have such a loud fucking mouth and I don't like being told what to do. Like, I joke around all the time, like, oh, the draft's coming. My exact thought is put a gun in my hand and see where I go.
Hmm.
See
I
what
got
I'm
shin
going to fucking
splints
do.
too, motherfucker, and flat
Right.
feet.
Put a gun in my hand and see who I aim at, because I
Yeah.
promise you it's not going to be who you think. Like, I think if it can, like, I think with the societies like the Giver and Uglies, I think we would, we'd be able to deal with what we did like at the beginning of the movie. But would we, like, do we think like the emotional collapse that would happen once we realize our society is falling apart? Do you think that either of us would be able to survive having to figure out life after that?
I will tell you right now, if I was the father in The Giver, I would have offed myself the moment they fucking made
Told me
me
I was
realize what I
killing
was doing.
babies. Yep.
Like, oh, I just murdered hundreds of babies. Why the?
Right.
Give me that needle, man. Like, I'm done. Like, I was sitting there like this. You're really gonna hurt some people here. That finally go. How do you live with that?
Right. Like I think unfortunately, like I think within the uglies, like it would be like I would be okay. And even if society falls, like I could deal with that. I do agree with you with the giver. I think that would fuck up a lot of people psychologically. So do we think like it like do you think like you could handle the psychological trauma that comes after that? Do I think that I could live through the Hunger Games? Absolutely the fuck not.
I think I'd survive Hunger Games, Divergent. Giver really depends on the job I had. Like if I'm the one murdering people, like old people, fine. I've made the joke several times that COVID wasn't as effective as it could be.
I
Um,
agree.
but infants is like shit fucks me up now.
Right.
So
I think the giver is going to be more of a psychological issue. Like, can we
mhm.
handle a psychological decline? Whereas, like, I don't think I'd survive the Hunger Games. I'd give it my best shot. But I'm also that type of person where I've said plenty of times that if we end up in a zombie apocalypse, I'm fucking killing myself. I
Oh,
don't understand the point of trying to survive that shit. I'm not meant to live a life outside of comfort. Now, if it's like a situation where I'm Katniss, where all I've ever known is the struggle, is that much struggle. I've struggled. Don't get me wrong, but not like that. It
Oh
may be a
God,
different story. But
I
having
yearn for the zombie apocalypse,
but
man.
like here's the thing, right? I don't think I could do it. Like if it was like this society collapsing and me have to deal with that, now I'm offing myself. If I lived it my whole life, it might be a different story. But like I can't live without air conditioning.
See
I'm
that
a horrible person when I'm hot. I need indoor plumbing because that shit's gross. Like
that to
I
me
lived,
is the opposite. Like I yearn for that. Only reason is like the moment the power goes out, I do everything in my power to bring the power back. So like to me,
right.
you've just given me infinite challenges, the ability to murder. Like even if they're just dead, I can kill them again. But like we've seen how Shane and Negan handled things. I probably would lean more towards their leadership.
I
And
think
then
I might survive like the Divergent thing, but like I don't know if I don't know if I'd survive I really don't know if I'd survive the Hunger Games. I genuinely don't. I got asthma. I got really bad sinuses. I'm
well,
pretty fucking top heavy. Like
you're going on the assumption we would have been selected.
yeah, yes,
I don't think we would
absolutely.
have been selected. I think we would have just been grunts in the Hunger Games.
I think it's I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. It's a very weird.
I
Yeah,
know as
I
a
don't know.
kid and as a teen, there was better teens in better shape with better athletic
Oh
ability
yeah.
that would have represented the district better
Oh,
than me.
if I was a teenager in the Hunger Games, first of all, I was 125 pounds in high school, and 35 pounds of that was tits. I would have been fucking. I wouldn't have survived that shit. There's no way.
I went from either being a really heavy, short kid and then all of a sudden a super lanky, awkward kid and didn't know how to control either body. So throwing me
Right.
into the pit would have been they would have thrown Gibby because Gibby was like
Gibby
same
would have
height.
survived the Hunger Games totally.
Yeah, he had same height. He had facial hair since he was in
Right.
sixth grade. The guy was an adult in a teenager's body. They would have sent him, and I would be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, he didn't win it.
I think
Damn."
if it came down to like surviving and just like sticking it out, I'd be fine. But if you want me to fight, oh,
So
I don't know
that's.
how that would end.
I don't think I would have been involved in like the games per se. I
Oh, see,
could see me being pulled into the
no,
resistance.
I think I'd survive being pulled into the resistance. I would not survive the games. But my luck, I would be picked for the games. That's the problem.
Well, but doesn't the district pick who they want to represent them?
It's a random lottery.
Oh, well, I'm sure it's rigged. Like why? They probably leave fat kids out and like awkwardly like flat-footed people and people with asthma. They're probably like, no, like we're gonna put our winners in the bucket and pretend like it's a random drawing.
Yeah, I don't know because when I read the books, like there were some people in there who definitely died for the 5 minutes because they were not physically able to handle it. There
Yeah,
were
well,
some districts where like they trained for it, yeah,
but
but
then again, like also in that scenario, I don't think I would have ever been a fat kid because you wouldn't have been able to be a fat kid.
well, right, that's the other
You
thing.
would
Not
you
at
would
least
have we wouldn't had tablets or computer. We wouldn't had the things that would have enabled us to be
right.
weak.
Yeah,
So
that's true. You're right. All right, I'll give you. But that's what I'm saying. No, but that was my point. Was like, if I grew up in that society, it might have been a different story. But if you're throwing me into that society now, knowing what I know, I would not survive.
that's fair. I give you that fair assessment. Again, I think the only one I wouldn't survive is if I was a nurturer in the Giver because I would have just offed myself the moment it happened. They would have
Right.
been like, I was like, oh my god, like the fact that he didn't react that way the moment the memories rushed over him is
Well, he
like,
did. He did a little bit because what happened? He was about to, send her to elsewhere, and he slapped the needle away. I don't know if
oh,
you realized it, but he
oh, he
was the
did.
one who. Yeah.
But to me, that was too subtle. He should have crawled into a corner and be like, "Dear God, I have
Well,
murdered hundreds of babies."
I don't know if you ever see the fault. Like, I don't think, at least not in the first one. I
No,
don't know if you ever see like the fallout of the society getting the memories back.
the most you
I
get is Kate Holmes with the
right.
teal running down her cheek of
But I
escaping
mean,
Scientology.
even in the books, I don't know. I think he does not return to that town or like setup
Promise is
for
fucking
like,
broken.
well, he comes back eventually, but I don't think he comes back for like a very, very, very long time. I believe he does get to see his parents again eventually, but I don't think it's for
Hold on.
like years.
So the father lived again. That's the unbelievable. Then you're not human at that point. Like everybody in the room should have been like, he's
I
not
have to.
contemplating suicide.
I, I'm
That
gonna
guy's
have
a
to double
serial
check the
killer.
books. I'm gonna have to double check the books.
Like that guy's just straight up serial killer. If he's like not crying or like I'm a drone pilot. Oh, I got to work a camera. That's fine. Like your life isn't that bad. This guy murdered hundreds of babies and was getting ready to teach somebody else to murder hundreds of babies and learned from somebody who murdered hundreds of babies. Like,
And he was about to murder a child that he essentially watched grow up.
yeah, like, oh, I actually care about this person. But
Right.
and he's still alive 20, 30 years down the line. No, that
I
sucker
don't know. I
better
have to
be.
double check it.
All right, he better at some point. I don't care if it's dark. I don't care about the actor. Like he needs to suck on a gun. Like there's no way a human with any sense of morality would mentally survive
Oh.
that. I feel bad when I take a penny but don't leave a penny. So if you're murdering hundreds of fucking babies,
Uh,
that's the only out of all four movies. That is the only one I don't think I survive. Well, the Uglies I probably wouldn't survive because they'd be like, "What do you want to change about yourself?" And I'd be like, "No, I'm good." Like, because at the same time, I don't think in any of these movies I'd ever get fat, and that's the only problem I've always had with myself is that I'm fat.
oh God.
So that's just my opinion. Yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, I think like I said, I don't think if you put me into them now, like or if you put me into like Divergent or the Hunger Games now, living in comfort and then not being in comfort, no, I'm done. I'm offing myself.
Mm-hmm.
Uglies and the Giver, I could be fine with, but like if I grew up in them, I might have survived them. But like throwing me into it now, like if society collapses, it was nice knowing you.
I yearn for it. It's a bunch of check mark boxes to get back to because you knew what you had and you want to build back to that. And then there's just like no walls. Like piss me off. Just piss me off. There's a lot of you have pissed me off. Like there's walls keeping you safe right now.
Oh man. So on that note, don't play with Dace.
Yeah.
I think any final thoughts? Like what your overall thoughts on each one of them?
The Giver was a fantastic movie. I'm a little upset that it did fly under the radar and that I just watched this when you brought it up. I do think it got caught up in that Weinstein bullshit, and that's probably why it wasn't promoted or heavily touted. Like, because that was part of, I think, the heart of the Me Too movement, and Meryl Streep was one of the faces of that. So I highly doubt she promoted a Weinstein movie while she was fighting Weinstein. Out of the four, I think it's the best. Uglies, didn't really care for. I would watch the second one just to see where it goes, but it just felt like everything else with a very superficial plot. No pun intended. But it's just it was the Instagram movie. Divergent, Timu Dakota Johnson turns me off. Decent plot. Never finished the franchise, so I hold that against it as well. And then the Hunger Games killed Philip Seymour Hoffman, one of my favorite characters from Twister. So
I think for me, the Hunger Games and the Giver are probably both like top ones for me. I think it's also a little bit different for me because I very much will hold the book close to my heart. So usually the
mhm.
book, like the movie, gets up there too. And the Hunger Games book to film adaptation was really great, at least for the first one. I think the concept was crazy at the time too because there really wasn't much like that when that came out. And Suzanne Collins always writes with intention, if that makes sense. Like when Suzanne Collins has said before that she doesn't write to make money, she writes to say something. So like there's always the meanings in those books that in movies that we see, they're meant to be there. The Giver, like I said, that's a classic. I remember reading that in 8th grade willingly when the other classes were reading it as required curriculum, and I loved it. Uglies was a great book to read. I wish the movie was a little bit more well done. I think it should have been longer because I think there were aspects in the books that I remember that just weren't there that would have made it had a little bit more substance.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Divergent just got a little annoying. I agree with you. I enjoyed it, but I think it sucks that they never finished it out because like they left the third one in such like a massive cliffhanger. But I do think Divergent probably was the one that was like lacking the most.
Yeah, I mean that's general problem with cinema right now because now everybody's building these universes,
Yeah,
and you have to see the entire picture to enjoy it. And at least I'm sure we'll talk about it at some point on this podcast, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. If you're
right,
not getting, like, there needs to be a start and an end, and if
right.
the end is not clearly defined, it's frustrating to watch just the middle.
And I think it's hard too because in society today, everything has to be a viral hit, and if it's not, you get
Mhm.
all these stories that are started but never finished.
Yeah, and I think we'll tackle this as this podcast progresses over our bi-weekly schedule. It's
Right,
cinema's dying. Unfortunately, like they're at a transitional period right now where the movie theater isn't what the movie theater was, and
right.
streaming isn't what streaming could be yet. And it's a shame because it's the same thing that drives me nuts with TV. You're using an archaic rating system of if a movie does well,
Well,
and it doesn't.
virality is killing storytelling.
Yeah. Well, like for example, Happy Gilmore 2 just came out on Netflix. How can you possibly say it was a financial success? Like I know they'll say, "Oh, it moved this many subscriptions," but you're at a point now. If people had the subscription, they're going to keep the subscription. If they didn't
Right.
get it, they're probably not going to get it. So it's like, how do you find out what's a success come a movie this day and age?
I do believe Netflix has their own like algorithm based off of like where it sits in the
Hits.
top 10 and yeah. But like I said again, it's like I said, the virality, like needing to be viral, it's killing good storytelling. It's not about putting a story out anymore
Mhm.
and giving us something to watch. It's just about getting them the money from it.
And the shit thing too is like, we're talking about The Giver 10 years after it was made, right?
Right. Yeah.
They start putting clips of that on TikTok. It gets a movement, but you're already 10 years too late to continue that story.
Right. Exactly.
And it's so frustrating. That's the same problem with TV. They're using this Nielsen rating or whatever, the Nielsen ratings, and it's like that nobody has a Nielsen box anymore. Like everybody fucking watches it next day on streaming.
Right.
Or the whole late night conversation where Colbert got canceled. It's the #1 late night show. Guarantee you most of his views come from YouTube the next day. But they're still monetizing that. So like how can you? It's a whole flawed system. But when it comes to this podcast, I hope it sheds some light on like, hey, Captain America: Brave New World was a good fucking movie. Just because it didn't make $1 billion like every other movie, it's not the movie's fault. It's that nobody's going to the movies anymore. It's just that you introduced movies at home, and that's where the consumer wants to be. They'd rather pay $30 to sit at home and own it than pay $15 to go sit in a theater, see it once, and wait for it to come back out on streaming.
Right. So we'll see. And on that note, I think it's about time to wrap it up. What do you have going on, Dace?
So much stuff. And this is fun, because usually I'm asking other people what they got going on. And everybody goes, nothing.
That felt weird. I felt itchy.
Minecraft Mondays. There's some streams going on usually Monday and Thursdays on twitch.tv/Basement Protocol. But Minecraft Mondays is definitive and will run even if I'm not there. I'm trying to do retro games on Thursday. I've been playing Gex Trilogy because it was just released by Limited Runs, but I'm also doing Donkey Kong Bonanza, so I'm hoping to get back into that this Thursday. Jersey Fanatics, every Wednesday. Myself, Eric Berezzo, and sometimes Tyler Freed talk everything Phillies. Somehow the most consistent project we got going on right now. And then every Thursday, the weekly protocol will drop. And then on Fridays, when this isn't dropping, a Dace-tacular Mind will drop. So we're going to give you content 4 days out of the week. Just watch them to one fucking thing. I'd be grateful.
Well, I think that about wraps it up. Thank you guys for listening, and hopefully we will continue to see you and meet you behind the silver screens.